This is the Playbook with Levon Whitaker.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am here with Dr. Lloyd Walton on the Playbook. Doc, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I have no complaints. Life is good.
That's great. Doc, just for those who don't know you, I know we talked previously back during All-Star Weekend of 2020, but just to give the people a brief background of you, you were raised in the Chicago Heights, Illinois, went to Mount Carmel High School. You were a Parade magazine All-American, went off to attend Marquette University, and you actually played under the great Al McGuire. So just briefly, what was that experience like leading up to playing through high school and then playing under such a profound guy like Mr. McGuire?
Well, I'll say this, this was a long time ago, right? Things were quite different for me in high school. I started off playing, basketball just because I loved the game. And it kept me busy, and it was always challenging. So, when I started playing in high school, actually what happened after my freshman year, my parents actually sent me to boarding school in North Carolina.
Wow.
I was raised by my aunt and uncle who didn't have any children.
Okay.
But my mom and my aunt and my grandmother was like my tag team. And
Okay.
They just said, hey, look, we don't think things are going to work out. You're not applying yourself academically, so on and so forth. You're not hanging around with the wrong guys, that kind of stuff. So we're going to send you to boarding school. I was like, man, you got to be kidding. First of all, I didn't know what the hell a boarding school was, okay?
Yeah.
They sent me to Palmer Memorial Institute in North Carolina, all black boarding school, upper middle class, some really, really special people there. I learned a great deal, but I was away from family and friends, okay?
Yeah.
I actually went there in the middle of the year, and I was put on the team right away and that kind of thing, trying to get acclimated. Obviously guys on the team, they don't know me, they don't particularly like me. And just a really quick, I get put into this game after like being there for 3 days, right?
Uh-huh.
Have a good response to that, scoring a couple baskets. Anyway, we win the damn game, and then I started getting friends.
Yeah.
But anyway, that school year ended, and I came back for the summer, and I begged my mom to allow me to re-enroll. I started off in Bloom High School in Chicago Heights.
All right.
So I begged her to let me go back to Bloom. She's like, no, you can't do it. Plus, you got 2 classes to make up. And so I came up with this idea, Mom, look, if I get 2 A's in those classes, can I then return to Bloom during the summer, right? And so she said, of course you can, because she didn't think I was going to get the 2 A's.
Yeah.
I aced them, okay?
There you go.
Right? And so I was allowed to re-enroll in Bloom High School. And I was there probably, I want to say, mid-October, out. I was at a party one evening, and in a basement party back then. That's when things were happening. And this guy comes in the party and he says, hey, this white guy's outside looking for you. I'm like, okay, I ain't do nothing. Got to be police. White guy in my neighborhood?
Yeah.
Anyway, I went outside, and it was the assistant coach of Mount Carmel.
Wow.
Who had been to my aunt's house. They had called my mom and my grandmother in Chicago, and he offered me a scholarship to go to Mount Carmel. And I did not want to go, man. I hate the idea. First of all, I'm leaving my friends again.
Right.
It's a Catholic school. I don't know nothing about Catholics. It's an all-boys school.
Right.
You have to wear a shirt and tie. Come on, man. Nothing could be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
when I'm thinking about my high school going, I'm not thinking about wearing a shirt and tie. I'm not thinking of being around all boys, no girls, right? I'm not thinking about the travel that's going to have to take place each and every day. But I'll say this, that the beauty about parents is that they have been around long enough to have a vision for their kids and young people. And my people had this vision, right? And I didn't like it, but I followed through on it. The second thing was, and probably more importantly was, this man had the kind of faith in me that he picked me up every single day and drove me 23 miles from Chicago Heights to Mount Carmel High School and brought me back every day. Now, when I look back in retrospect, I say, some people have said, man, that changed your life. I would even say to some degree, Levon, it might have saved my life.
Really?
I am truly indebted to this man. He's still living. He's 90 years of age.
Wow.
And, things started to blossom, not necessarily academically, but things started to blossom because I was beginning to be exposed to so many things that I'd never even thought about. And after 4 years there, I was named, as you mentioned, alluded to, as a Parade Magazine All-American.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had my choices of go to college, but I didn't qualify academically.
Yeah. Okay.
So I spent 1 year in junior college before I went to Marquette.
Wow.
Go ahead. Were you going to ask me something?
No. I was going to say, so that, you know, the internet doesn't say that, but that's a hell of a story. Just having that background, having that perspective from the background, and understanding that you obviously have the impact on someone for them to come out and come to you and, you know, pretty much approach you to bring you to a point in your life where you just had a different perspective on moving forward, based on the dedication and the trust that they had in you at that time.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you know, and I tell my players that even today, and particularly when I talk to young players, man, you never know who's watching, right?
Yeah.
So obviously he had seen me play in the Park District and what have you. He had a son that was 1 year younger than me. So he had been around basketball in the Chicago Park District area for many, many years. And so he saw me play and he thought enough of me, right, to give me this kind of opportunity, because everybody was not given this kind of opportunity. And I've learned and had so many other experiences throughout my life that people who I didn't necessarily meet, but actually saw me in a sporting event or what have you, who spoke highly of me. And I didn't even know it. So I always tell people, man, when you play sports, and I'll speak specifically about basketball, every opponent that you play against, every coach that you play against, and every fan in that stands is somebody who will leave there with an image of who you are. What is that image going to be? Was he a good guy? Was he a teammate? Did he work hard? Did he have discipline? Did he have sportsmanship? All those kinds of things. So I don't think when we're young that we think about those things, but they exist on a regular basis. Right.
I couldn't agree with you more on that point. My father raised me that way, just to constantly, you know, make sure that you're leaving an image, realize that somebody's watching you at all times, and your image is going to matter the further you go down the road. It doesn't always hit you at that moment, but it's just somebody's always watching. Just like yourself, in a different era, though, I just didn't understand that immediately growing up, but always kind of kept it in my hip pocket, just to kind of move in that type of respect as a young man. Dr. Walton, when you left Marquette, you got drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks in 1976. After for 5-6 seasons, you went on and left the NBA, and you obtained your doctorate degree eventually. How was that transition, and what inspired you to go and obtain a different level of education after leaving the NBA?
Well, LeBron, there was a long road between leaving the NBA and obtaining a doctorate. So first and foremost, very few players that play at that level in any sport are prepared for that transition.
Okay.
Just not prepared for that. One of the reasons has been, particularly back then, is that, you know, you don't want to give up the sport. You don't know when it's going to end, right?
All right.
So that's why people always tell you, and certainly told me, I'll say, you know, the importance of my education.
Okay.
But still in all, I didn't really know what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And so I tried a number of different things that I didn't like, that I wasn't good at, all those kinds of things. But one thing that was ingrained in me and resonated with me even to this day was that your education is something that never can be taken away from you. And that's important. It's your foundation for life. So I took a few jobs and I started thinking about how much money I was making. And I was like, you know, I didn't make a lot of money as an NBA player, but this wasn't even NBA money. So I'm like, I got a baby already here and I got one on the way. How am I going to be able to take care of them? And so I began to ask questions and really, really watch people who had ascended from entry-level positions to mid-managers and to directors and executive positions. And I began to watch them and ask a lot of questions. And so what I came up with was that if I wanted to make more money, if I wanted to be the best that I could be, I was going to have to go back to school and get a master's degree. So it took me several years to get myself together to be able to do that. But that was one of the best decisions that I ever made. And as soon as I got my master's degree, opportunities started to open up. I began to see myself as an executive, even though I wasn't there, because then the window opened, right? My eyes got big. I was like, I know I can do this. I know I can do that. The other part was that I had great mentors. Dr. Carol Adams was one of my mentors and still my mentor today. And a guy by the name of Stephen Gear. I learned so much from these individuals about organizations, structure, and culture, and all those kinds of things. So when the opportunity came, I started taking these jobs, man, these executive jobs. I was like, yeah, I want to run my own, my own shop, So the bottom line is that, I thought about it long and hard that I wanted to do something on my own. I wanted to be a manager, executive, what have you. And so made a decision to go back to school to earn my doctorate. And the quick thing about, going to school for me is that I never really liked school. And I remember getting my doctorate with my mom there and wife and different people. And I got off stage with now I'm a doctor. And my mom says to me, gosh, just think, you hated school. I was like, no, Mom, I didn't hate school. I hate school now. Right? So, it never stopped, man. But to me, it was a necessary evil. School became a lot easier the older I got because I found that it was a priority and it was important to me. And it's unfortunate to say it really wasn't that important to me, in high school and senior in college. Yeah,
I can completely agree there. I actually just finished my master's degree last year in 2019, and I was not a fan of school. Wasn't the most scholarly person, but definitely necessary and something no one can take away from me. Doc, I didn't play college ball or go over to play after that. After high school, I played high school baseball and ran track. But what would you say to the athletes now? What do you say to your athletes now about the level of importance of education on life beyond the whistle, as my good friend Tierra Webb would say?
Well, I would say younger players, younger athletes, I'd say the same thing that was told to me, that your education is important. It is the foundation for your future. Everybody's not going to play Division I sports, period. Everybody's not going to play professional sports, whether it's football, baseball, or basketball. It's just not going to happen. And sometimes you can be very good and not make it. Sometimes it's injuries that occur. The bottom line is that if you have a foundation, which is your education, it simply means that you have an opportunity to become self-sufficient and a productive member of society. And if you really take that serious, and I'm not saying don't pursue athletics, but if you take that serious, you don't have to worry about what's going to happen. You can then determine what your journey is going to be and what your future should look like. But if you don't, things are going to be extremely difficult, stressful, okay? And it's going to be hard to find your footing in this world that is very, very competitive. And, companies are not looking for somebody who can shoot the three, right? They want you to be innovative. They want you to be creative. Yeah. But those things are what's important. When I was just having a talk with my mentee day before yesterday, we were talking about academics and education. And I was telling them that most guys that I know, say, for example, had a good college career, didn't go to the NBA necessarily, but had an opportunity to go to play over in Europe, for example.
Okay.
And the thing is this, if you earned your degree, then go do it. Go do it, right? Because you have your degree, you go to Europe, maybe you play 3 to 5 years, you make some money, then you come back. But if you don't have a degree and you spend those 5 years in Europe, first of all, it's a misnomer to think everybody makes a lot of money playing in Europe, because it's not like that at all.
Okay.
If you go over there and spend 5 years and you still don't have a degree, what's going to happen when you come back? You're starting from, and I mean the real bottom, because now you're 27, 28, and the people who graduated with you are now mid-level managers, if not higher. You're coming in now at 28 at an entry-level position. Are you prepared? Do you have the character to be able to come in at that age at an entry-level position and learn and do your very best? I find very few athletes are able to do that.
Definitely. And yeah, that makes perfect sense. Just speaking from that standpoint, because you want to make sure that you're not pretty much putting yourself behind the 8 ball by not being prepared mentally. And I think when you mentioned that, what comes to mind when you mention, are you ready to be at the age of 28, starting at an entry-level position, working under or working with individuals that were in your shoe that are in positions where you were at 20, maybe 6 to 8 years ago, where you could have taken advantage of this type of beginner opportunity why maybe playing professional sports, why maybe having certificates and things like that to put you in positions just to be able to accommodate yourself mentally when you're in those type of atmospheres. Another question I want to ask, Doc. You came through the league and just through the sport of basketball during the 70s. Right now, the world is facing some adversity. The Black community, people in general, everybody's kind of taking their stance in different areas. Do you think that the NBA players today are facing similar adversity to the players that you saw and played with during your career?
Absolutely. I think, though, that athletes of during my era, African-American athletes in particular, never said anything about it. They just went on about their business. You couldn't really speak out. You didn't feel comfortable in speaking out. It was not an issue, you were told. You did what you could so you could be on the court, be on the field. Things have changed so drastically now. Players have a voice.
Yeah.
Particularly NBA players, they have a platform now like they've never had before in NBA history. And so there's been a lot of this discussion around whether they should even play or not. They wanted to address social issues. And my response has been they can all easily do both. They've never had the platform or the leverage that they have today. So why wouldn't you do both? The pandemic is something that we've never seen, unpredictable, unprecedented. So we really don't know, right? The NBA is doing everything they possibly can, putting guys in the bubble, putting in all these protocols to protect the players. But still in all, I believe that we should start, and we're starting. I don't believe we're going to be able to finish. That's just my personal opinion. I think the pandemic is too wicked. It's too unpredictable. It's odorless, right? You can't see it, right? You can be asymptomatic with all the different symptoms and not even know it and operate as normal people would. Right. So I just don't think we're going to be able to. But the bottom line is that with this leverage, with the platforms that our players have today, this is the greatest time that you ever will have to be able to speak out to the injustices that people, Black and brown people, are facing on a daily basis. You have everybody's attention. If players decided not to play and they went back to their respective homes and cities, you're doing it as an individual. It's better that you do it unified together because it makes more sense. It has more power, right, to be able to do it as a group. And so that's the reason why I feel like they should go back to play like they're doing. They still can do some individual things in their respective cities and states and what have you, but as a group, there will be some things that they will come out and say collectively that will have some serious power. Not only that, when you think about some of the things that happen in the NBA, we need more Black coaches. We need more Black executives. This is the time where you can put that on the table to have a conversation with them so we can begin to be able to implement the opportunities for guys to become coaches and executives in the NBA. It's hard to do that when you're not playing and not cohesive in terms of what your thought pattern is and about what you want.
Okay, Doc. And that was my next question, because that's been a huge debate on my platform, whether I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, face to face. And me being, I haven't walked the road that you've walked, Doc. So I don't want to step on your toes in any way. So everything I say is with all due respect, but I take your advice also because I just haven't understood how it can be both and be impactful. I've had debates with people via social media. I think that's one thing that the NBA and our culture has today, and at the advantage is the social media platform, with it just being such an evolution to the world of sports, with the world of sports already having that, that powerful impact. So my thing is these cops, these people that go out and they're murdering Black and brown people, like you said, they have the advantage, thanks to the legal system kind of just being in their favor, to go home, and the same Black and brown people they're killing, they get to go home and watch them in the comfort of their home, run up and down the court, across the field, and go back out there and do their jobs, whether it's the right or wrong thing, but more so the wrong thing. They're going back out there and doing their jobs again, coming back home and watching those same like-minded people same fair skin, same black and brown people get killed and killing them in some instances, but they're watching them, the same people, just on a different level as far as their class, So I'm asking for your advice to help me comprehend that, because like I said, I haven't walked the road that you walked. And you've been down the road that I'm trying to get to as far as the success and as a black man. So just trying to comprehend that on a different level from you.
Well, what I'm trying to convey, Ron, is that if you don't play, right, then what are you going to do? You're going to do what you want to do in terms of addressing police brutality, racism and all that stuff as an individual. That's what I'm saying. I want you to be able to do it as a group, as NBA players, right, plural. So you have a biggest platform. So if you have everybody's going to watch the game, as you already alluded to, right? So if you're making a statement before the game, you're making statements after the game, because it's such a visible game, so many fans are watching, it's going to have more impact than if you went back to your respective city, St. Louis or what have you, and you spoke about it as one person. But when that TV comes on to watch these games and you make these statements as a group, it's going to be so much more impactful in my eyesight than it's going to be as as individuals do. Because I think they all have a mindset. They want to address it. And it's been I don't want to say that anybody's wrong, okay?
Yeah.
Just say that this is my opinion, which would be more impactful to do it as a group as opposed to an individual. That's what I'm talking about. Playing in the game, people are going to turn on the TV. Right. So when you have this audience, right, this captive audience, looking at LeBron, looking at this player, that player, who's speaking before the game, who's speaking at the end of the game, and they're having these conversations about what's important to them, people are going to hear that. Who's going to hear it if there's no games? Where are you going to be able to say that at? You just going to put it on social media? I mean, that's the question. It doesn't have the impact that you want it to happen, that you want to have. The social media piece is going to be a selective group of people who basically like you. This needs to be told to people who don't like you. And when you're watching TV, because somebody watches basketball, don't mean that they like you. They like the game. So when you speak to them, then they're able to hear you. They're not going to be able to get the essence of your message, in my opinion, if you're out there just posting on social media. Now, I think those things work in conjunction, but without being able to speak on that microphone with 2 or 3 million people watching the game after the game and your press conference, where you going to get that at?
Right.
You're just not going to get it. In every game, there's a different guy who's done well. Okay? And so basically the marching orders at this point is that we're going to speak about how the game went, but we're going to speak about the social issues as well when that microphone gets in our face after a game. Think about that.
Okay.
Where else could that happen? On what platform can you use to be able to do that?
Right. And I can agree with that. And that has definitely shifted my mindset on the argument I've stood on so firmly. So thank you for that, because my initial reaction to this was, if you don't give them sports, if you don't get these people sports and tell them that, hey, you're not getting sports because we're not getting any change, then I didn't think beyond that as far as, well, how they even know what the reason is that you're not willing to play. If they're not in that realm of social media, they're not in that realm of just being, active listeners to different platforms that are out there today that the athletes do speak on. So definitely thank you for that. That shifted my mindset in that way. That's why I said I just want to get that perspective from you, somebody that came from an era where this was, laid on the table, and it was not trying to be. It wasn't. There was no social media, and they were doing it in broad daylight. Now, it's just highlighting now because we do have the social media impact. So with that,
let me just add one thing too that I think is critical to this. This is a fraternity. The NBA players are a fraternity, right? And so, you have to make sure you're taking care of your brother, right? Through this whole piece. Everybody has not become financially stable to be able to miss checks, okay? Right. So you got your role players. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
8 through 12 are role players.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't gotten paid. They won't get paid unless they play. Who's going to take care of them and their family? And we're talking
Right.
about probably 200 guys.
Right.
Who's going to do that for them? So you got to look out for everybody. And when you go back to play, and like I said, this thing may end and I think it's going to end because there's going to be more players who contract the virus. But just to not play and not give this other brother who wants to play, he's a good person, does his job as a role player. Now he can't do it, and now he can't get paid either. Everybody's not like a Trevor Ariza who decided, hey, because of financial, not because of a family situation with his son, that he could take a month off, right? He could take a month off. He's made enough money in his career. Everybody's not in that position. What about that rookie who's on the team who hasn't made that kind of money? That second-year guy who's been between the G League and the NBA who hasn't made that kind of money. Now you're taking away their livelihood. How are you helping him? You're not helping him.
Right.
All those had to be taken into consideration to come up. And let me just reiterate, I don't think there's any perfect answer, right?
Okay. Yeah.
These are unprecedented times. There cannot be a perfect answer. But you try to make decision for the greater good, and that's for everybody involved.
Definitely. And again, I agree with that. And it makes more sense just from my perspective, looking out. Someone that loves sports, this is my platform. This is what I do. I love to talk about sports. So it was very tough for me to say we don't, and I've been standing on it firmly. But it's very tough for me to say, oh man, I don't want sports. I don't want sports. I don't want sports, because it's kind of like this, that full of emotion to see another brother, another woman, a sister, lose a life. But to what you just said, that makes a lot more sense. Just this kind of hitting home and hearing it from someone from your perspective, just to take it in without having those emotions tied to it, from seeing a clip that's not favorable.
Well, LeVon, look, man, you're much younger than I, but you still have feelings. You have emotion. And I hurt. Okay, I hurt every time I see a young brother being choked out, being shot in his back. I hurt, man. Okay, this is real talk. I have feelings about that. I cringe when I see that happening. And here's our opportunity that we've never had before. We're talking about changing some of the laws. We're talking about, changing, reforming, jail time and sentencing and all those kinds of things. This is our time, man. Yeah. I don't get another time like this anywhere in the near future if we don't jump on it now. And we have to do it with all hands on deck. Everybody, there's a role for everybody. I don't care who you are, there's a role for everybody. Everybody can't be the speaker, right? Everybody can't be the writer, but everybody can contribute to this movement that we're embarking on to be able to change racism and the way we live in our culture today. Everybody has a role in that. And we got to have all hands on deck doing it. And I just think that our players have the greatest leverage that they ever had in their lives to be able to make people listen to them, number one, and to be able to begin to have the conversation to change laws, to change behaviors with the police, etc. The time is now, and we can't let up.
Definitely. And so, Doc, I don't disagree with the words you said there. Everybody definitely has a role. Everybody has a job to do. And it is the most prominent time to take those actions and force change and put the right people in office. I want to ask you about 3 guys, Doc. Okay. I'm gonna start with the youngest guy. I'm gonna start with Kyrie Irving. What were your thoughts in reaction to what Kyrie Irving had to say in regards to something's fishy, something he doesn't think that? I mean, obviously, I noticed you think the NBA should come back, in your opinion, but what were your thoughts to what Kyrie Irving had to say and how the league responded to him as far as a fellow NBA player?
First, let me say that I respect Kyrie Irving very much. I respect his opinion.
Yeah.
But let's look at this in context. Kyrie Irving is out. He's not going to play.
Yeah.
Restart. So he was all for restarting until the NBA said, look, if you're not going to be, if you're hurt, like him and KD are hurt, then you're not going to be allowed to come and even sit on the bench and support the team. You're not going to be allowed to be in the bubble. Then he began to say, we don't need to play. Now, I don't know how he got to that point from saying he thought everybody should go back and play, and then all of a sudden being told that players who are on the injured reserve are not going to be allowed in the bubble, and now he don't want anybody. We shouldn't go back and play. I don't know how he got there. The other part of it is that Kyrie said we should start our own league. Hey, man, look, I believe black people have their ownership of everything they possibly can. But having your own league is no small undertaking. None whatsoever. Think about it. This is the 66th year of the NBA. The NBA as we see it now. So how old are you now, LeBron?
I'll be 27.
You'll be 20. 27 years ago, it didn't resemble the NBA that we see today.
Right.
Players were making the money. They didn't have the TV contracts that they have. They didn't have the salaries that they have. They didn't have the sponsorships that they have. It wasn't a global game. So when you say that, it's as if you can just flip a coin and all of a sudden you can start your own league and we'll have the same kinds of things that we have today. And there's nothing can be further from the truth. So again, I respect Kyrie. I respect his opinion. I just don't think his opinion makes sense in this situation.
Yeah, and same here. I just know it was a lot of backlash and a lot of it just made it up to it made the conversation was a top priority in the realm of sports. Just talking about even when you look at things that Kendrick Perkins said and let over to Kevin Durant, who was his teammate, and so it kind of touched some feelings. So I wanted to see how you felt about that. The next guy I want to talk about is a guy who sitting in a very high level of leadership right now, LeBron James. What do you say about LeBron James from your perspective as far as his leadership, as far as getting these guys back on the road, and just the off the court things that he's been doing during this pandemic and while the season has been on rest?
I think that LeBron is one of the best leaders in terms of sports, one of the best that we've ever had off the court. The things that he's done, like, opening up the school, like putting 2,000 kids through college, starting this new voter registration drive, always speaking up, social activities and events. We never seen a guy being able to take the reins and create his own narrative without even feeling like I can't do this or I shouldn't do this. And I'm gonna give you this analogy. One of the big things about sports, in particular basketball, is that you always hear these discussions and debates about who was the best player, right? Which I hate. I don't believe you really get to that if players played in different eras, for example. But you always heard about, who was better, Michael or LeBron, right? And most of the people always said it was Michael because he had that killer instinct. He would take that last shot, right? You could depend on him to do that. And that's true. But think about this. Anytime somebody needs to speak up about social responsibility, the lack thereof, racism, police brutality, who can you count on? LeBron James. So Michael gave you everything as a player. LeBron give you everything as a leader about how he leads his people with police brutality, social events that happen. How do you speak up? How do you take a stance with every kid that's been killed practically that was newsworthy? You heard him speak out first. From Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, he had his whole team wearing hoodies. Look, man, this guy is at the top of the line off the court as other players have been on the court, and there's only been a few of those, and Michael being one of them. So I give him all respect, man. He is one of few that has the platform and the nerve to be able to do it in front of everybody, no matter what the situation is. He will address it head on.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more, man. LeBron is a huge figure. And like I said, this was just off the court. So talking about what he, in comparison to what he does on the court, it's just, you would like to think that it's day and night, but it's not. Just because of how his leadership had it just transpires while he's on the court as well as just being a great teammate, in most people's opinion. And the last guy I'm gonna ask you about is that guy hanging up behind you. I know you just briefly touched on it, but that guy hanging up behind you, right there. We recently had The Last Dance come out, and it was something to see for the world. And you may have known some things on it, just being in that sector and that fraternity of the NBA. What was your thoughts on The Last Dance? Me personally, I thought it was mind blowing. As a guy that often had time, I hate the debate also, but I didn't live through the Michael Jordan era. I lived through the LeBron era. So that's what I like. But what was your thoughts on the Last Dance docuseries, rather?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Most people don't know that, I worked for Michael for 3 years. And there were some things that I didn't know. But I thought it was eye-opening for so many people to see what leadership, real leadership, and a desire to win really is from his perspective. Some people believe that he would do anything to win. I can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he really showed an inside view behind the curtain, how competitive he is, but also how great he is as a basketball player. I don't think there's any real successful leader in any industry that everybody's going to like while they're leading. That leadership when you're winning and you're making your company a Fortune 500 and millions of dollars, everybody's not going to like that process. There's going to be some collateral damage, but everybody's going to love the end result when you're on top. But it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of accountability, a lot of commitment. And he showed all of those kind of characteristics during The Last Dance. And again, there were some things happened that I didn't know of. I was a little surprised, but I think all of them, in my opinion, and certainly obviously the way he did them, they were necessary to win 6 championships. How are you going to win those 6 championships without him getting on people's case, being a little jerk, maybe even some people calling him an asshole or whatever, but he won. And before The Last Dance, nobody knew that, and everybody kind of liked him. Now people have a little bit different view. Man, he was a jerk. He was this, he was that. But that was all part of it, man. You don't become that successful and everybody gonna like you. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that one. One thing I took from the documentary, the one word I took from that was just accountability. I held everyone accountable, including themselves. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Doc, man, Dr. Walton, this has been amazing. I appreciate you joining on the platform with the Playbook here on the Sports Grid. It's been eye-opening, to say the least, especially just having that conversation about the social justice issues that we're facing head-on right now and its relation to professional sports, the NBA being specifically. So I want to thank you, and I look forward to staying in contact with you moving forward, man. I really appreciate you, Doc.
Hey, man, I enjoyed our conversation. And as I said when we started, if you need, anything that I can help you with, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here for you.
I appreciate that, Doc. I appreciate it. I'll be in touch, Doc.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, you too. Thank you.
This is The Playbook with Levon Whitaker.
What's going on, folks? It's your Sports Grid host here, Levon Whitaker. I just want you all to know to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, be sure to follow me on sportsgrid.com. Thank you.